the betting giants are effectively dictating policy to Adam Silver. To put it bluntly, the situation is an absolute catastrophe. The NBA is facing a massive backlash following reports that major gambling operators strong-armed Commissioner Silver into penalizing teams accused of losing on purpose. It appears the heavy fines levied against the Utah Jazz and Indiana Pacers had nothing to do with fan experience or maintaining competitive balance. They were strictly about shielding betting odds. The fan base is furious, and this controversy could mark the beginning of the end for Silver's tenure. So, let us dive right in. The crackdown. On February 12th, 2026, the league slapped the Utah Jazz with a $500,000 penalty and hit the Indiana Pacers with a $100,000 fine for conduct detrimental to the association. The Jazz had been sitting key starters like Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jusuf Nurkic during the entire fourth quarter of matchups that were still within reach. One glaring example was a February 7th loss to Orlando, where Utah surrendered a 17-point advantage. Meanwhile, the Pacers had benched Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith during a defeat against Utah, even though the league verified those players were physically cleared to play 2 days post-fines on February 14th, 2026. Adam Silver took the podium for his annual All-Star Weekend address. He came out swinging. He described the current tanking epidemic as worse than anything we have witnessed in recent history. He vowed that the league would explore every available option to halt this trend, including the nuclear option of stripping draft picks and completely overhauling the lottery system. He admitted the status quo was broken. What we are doing and what we are witnessing right now simply is not working. There is no doubt about it, he declared. Silver tried to anchor the narrative around the ticket buyers and the television audience. He insisted, we had better not lose focus on our fans here. We cannot ignore the people who support this league day in and day out. It sounded like a commissioner protecting the integrity of the sport. It sounded like a man fighting for the game. But just 48 hours later, a completely different motive emerged. On February 16th, 2026, Ben Goliver, a veteran NBA reporter and co-host of the Greatest of All Talk podcast, offered a contradictory take on the events. Speaking on his show, Goliver stated, "We know how deeply the NBA is bedded with the gambling industry. Over-unders are on the line, player props are on the line." He went on to explain, "If coaches are just randomly scratching guys for the whole game without letting the public know ahead of time, you are going to incite a lot of angry bettors and a lot of furious gambling partners." In his view, that financial pressure was the real driver behind Silver's aggressive stance at All-Star Weekend. This perspective changes everything. If Goliver's intel is solid, then the fines, the fiery press conference, and the threats to revoke picks were never really about the fans. It was about sportsbooks bleeding cash when coaches yanked starters unexpectedly, wrecking the betting lines that DraftKings, FanDuel, and every other corporate partner had established. Goliver singled out the Jazz as the prime example. If you refuse to play your guys in the fourth quarter, how many wagers does that ruin? He posed the question. When a franchise starts its top talent, the sports books adjust their odds to match over-unders, point spreads, and individual player props. But when those stars are pulled in, the final quarter of a tight contest, every single one of those tickets gets skewed. Gamblers drop money they should not have lost. The house takes a hit it did not see coming. Reports suggest that these gambling entities were part of a coordinated campaign pushing the NBA to crack down on load management and tanking, placing the stability of the betting product above the actual competition. Just like that, the narrative flipped. If you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates. The question was no longer whether the league should penalize losing. The question became, who was the penalty actually serving? Silver's media session carefully sidestepped any mention of gambling, focusing entirely on obligations to the fans and systemic repairs. He cited the loaded 2026 draft class as a primary driver of team behavior. He emphasized collective accountability, stating that all franchises needed to step back and realize we are all in this boat together. Yet, what he left out told the real story. Silver spoke about the fans, the draft, and the competition committee. He did not say a word. About DraftKings, he did not mention FanDuel. He ignored the billions of dollars circulating between the league and its betting sponsors. That silence, paired with Goliver's scoop, created a massive canyon between what Silver claimed and the reality unfolding behind the curtain, the tanking epidemic. To grasp the gravity of this, you have to look at the sheer scale of the tank job in the 2025 to 26 NBA season. We are not talking about a few bottom feeders losing at the finish line. We are seeing roughly 1/3 of the league blatantly jockeying for lottery position, and the race to the bottom began earlier than ever. The motivation is clear. The 2026 draft prospects phenoms like Cooper Flagg, Ace, Bailey, and AJ Dybantsa represent what scouts are calling one of the deepest and most talented classes in history. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our full draft analysis coming soon. Recent memory. We are watching a league where landing one generational talent can completely flip a franchise's destiny for the next 10 years, making the race for last place more aggressive than ever. A number one pick isn't just an athlete. They are a box office attraction, a merchandise machine, and the spark that brings fans back. The Utah Jazz have become the absolute face of this tanking crisis. Sitting at 18-38, the playoffs were a pipe dream, giving them zero incentive to win and every reason to chase lottery balls. Their strategy? Brazenly obvious. Play competitive basketball for 3 quarters, then bench the best players and crumble in the 4th. Coach Will Hardy took massive heat for this tactic. Even after trading for Jaren Jackson Jr., supposedly to make a playoff push, the team immediately restricted his minutes in crunch time exactly when they needed him. The $500,000 fine was the biggest anti-tanking punishment in NBA history. Yet it didn't alter Utah's game plan one bit. Before we get to the Pacers, make sure to smash that like button if you love deep dives like this. Now, Indiana is a totally different beast. Just 1 year removed from the finals, they collapsed to 15-40. Starting the year 6-31 made it painfully obvious this wasn't just a slump. Sure, injuries hurt. Tyrese Halliburton was rehabbing an Achilles, but the Pacers had a built-in reason to lose written into their contracts. They owed Toronto a 2026 first-rounder protected top 8. Translation: if they weren't one of the 8 worst teams, they lost the pick. That clause turned losing into a winning strategy, but Utah and Indiana weren't the only ones diving. The Wizards were 14-39 after shelving Anthony Davis for the year with hand and groin issues, right after a controversial trade. Trae Young was also out with a leg problem. Whether those injuries were legit or just convenient excuses, the result was identical. Washington was all in on the tank, eyeing stars like Ace Bailey to restart their timeline. Then you had the Brooklyn Nets at 15-38, fully embracing a long-term rebuild after spending 5 first-round picks in the 2025 draft. With a rookie roster and rock-bottom assist numbers, their offense relied on solo scorers like Cam Thomas, proving they were stacking losses on purpose. If you're enjoying this breakdown, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next update. The Sacramento Kings held the league's worst record at 12-44. A 14-game skid buried them, forcing the front office to prioritize teenagers over veterans in a blatant grab for the number 1 overall pick. Meanwhile, the Pelicans, at 15-41, had sent their unprotected 2026 pick to Atlanta. This created a bizarre scenario where New Orleans losing actually helped the Hawks, adding a twisted layer to the tanking wars. It didn't stop there. The 19-35 Dallas Mavericks were in free fall after the Luka Doncic trade. Portland was stripping it down amidst the Chauncey Phillips legal drama. The Clippers faced accusations of throwing games to save a pick owed to the Oklahoma City Thunder, while Charlotte and Chicago quietly piled up losses to boost their lottery odds. The sheer number of franchises trying to lose distinguished the season from anything we have seen before. Commissioner Silver labeled it the darkest year in history. This wasn't just one bad team giving up in April. This was a systematic collapse involving 10 or more organizations, stretching from opening night all the way past the All-Star break. And here is the kicker. Owners shrugged off the fines. One exec admitted they would happily write a blank check for a top 3 pick because a franchise-changing rookie is worth way more than any penalty the league office could hand out. A $500,000 fine to a billionaire is just the cost of doing business. Now, we have to talk about the gambling connection. The NBA's marriage to betting didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was a strategic move that started years ago, evolving into a financial dependency that dictates how the league functions today. Adam Silver was the mastermind behind this shift. Back in 2014, while other leagues treated betting like a virus that had to be isolated, Silver argued for regulation. He wanted to bring betting into the light to monitor integrity in real time. It was a massive gamble. Silver positioned the NBA as the most betting-friendly league, banking on an inevitable change in American laws and culture. That bet paid off in 2018 when the Supreme Court struck down POSPA, opening the floodgates. The sports world changed forever with state-by-state legalization, unleashing a massive betting industry almost overnight. Americans threw down over $119 billion in wagers in just 1 year, causing the 4 major U.S. leagues to rush into partnerships with sportsbooks. But the NBA was already miles ahead, driven by Adam Silver's early support. The deals that followed were not just sponsorships, they were sweeping and woven into the very fabric of the league. DraftKings and FanDuel stepped up as co-official betting partners of the NBA, while arenas plastered sportsbook logos everywhere. Broadcasts started baking live odds right into the screen, not as a fun extra, but as a core part of how we watch the game. Superstars like LeBron James and Kevin Durant inked their own deals with betting giants, and the league even gave team owners the green light to hold equity in sportsbook companies. The line between basketball and gambling didn't just get blurry, it was completely erased, replaced by a financial marriage generating billions in shared profits. The amount of cash on the table is mind-blowing. Experts project U.S. leagues will rake in a collective $4.2 billion in betting revenue, with the NBA taking a huge slice. They have made it a pillar of their business, not just a side hustle, but a load-bearing wall. This is why Ben Goliver's reporting hits so hard. When gambling dictates the entire flow of a match, and a coach benches his starters at the beginning of the fourth quarter in a tight contest, every single bet relying on those players is instantly compromised. Spreads that were meticulously calculated become worthless. The house loses money, the bettor feels robbed, and that crucial ecosystem of trust, which legal gambling relies on, begins to crumble because tanking sabotages betting integrity without a moment's notice. If bettors can't trust that the game is being played on the level, they will simply take their money to a different sport. For a league that has staked its future on gambling engagement, that is a terrifying position. Before we dive into the scandals, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more uncensored sports news. The NBA's embrace of casinos has coincided with a shocking rise in betting-related controversies involving both players and officials. Jonte Porter was kicked out of the league for betting violations. Then there were reports of Phillips facing an indictment on gambling charges while serving as the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. We are not talking about small mistakes by bench warmers. These were systemic failures involving people at the highest levels of the league. And looking beyond the NBA, the scene was just as ugly. You had Cleveland Guardians pitchers Emmanuel Claus and Luis Ortiz indicted for pitch rigging, and 6 NCD players accused of running betting schemes. Prop bets, which bring in roughly 70% of sportsbook revenue, were flagged as the biggest risk for manipulation because they rely on individual stats that are way easier to fix than the final score. The fans are losing faith fast. Surveys reveal that 49% of Americans believe sports betting is destroying the integrity of the games. Even worse, 79% of fans specifically distrust the NBA following this wave of gambling scandals. Another poll found that 70% of people think betting harms integrity, while 65% are convinced athletes are actually altering their play just to satisfy the odds. Do you think the games are rigged? Let us know in the comments. This was the climate when Silver took the podium at All-Star Weekend to talk about protecting fans. The league he runs actively constructed the gambling machine that is now causing the very crisis he is trying to fix. The history and the hypocrisy of tanking in the NBA isn't new. It is as old as the draft itself. Every single generation, has dealt with its own version of losing on purpose, along with failed attempts to stop it. Before the 1985 lottery came along, the draft was a simple reverse order setup. The absolute worst team in each conference was handed the number one pick. The reward for losing was so obvious and direct that it sparked some of the most shameless tanking we have ever seen. The most notorious example was the 1983-84 Houston Rockets, who basically stopped trying late in the season to snag the pick that became Hakeem Olajuwon, a move that defined their franchise for 20 years. The league fought back by creating the draft lottery, a system meant to add enough luck to the mix that tanking wouldn't guarantee a payout. But let's be real, the lottery didn't stop tanking. It just changed the math. Instead of locking in the top spot, a terrible record just gave you better odds. Over the years, the league has tweaked those percentages again and again. In 2019, they flattened the odds. So the bottom three teams each had a 14% shot at the number one pick, reducing the benefit of being the absolute worst. The theory was simple. If the gap between the worst record and the third worst record didn't matter for the lottery, teams would have less incentive to lose aggressively. It was a desperate move to fix a problem the league itself helped create. It used to be just one rogue general manager playing chess while the rest of the league turned up their noses. But the game has changed completely. Now, we are looking at double-digit squads executing the exact same tanking playbook simultaneously. That loaded 2026 draft class has triggered an absolute arms race where finishing second to last is suddenly just as lucrative as hitting rock bottom. Adam Silver is trying to stop the bleeding with a mix of minor tweaks and bold speeches. We saw the player participation rules drop in 2023, aimed at killing load management. Then came the NBA Cup, a desperate attempt to force non-contenders to actually try during the regular season. But the latest memos from the competition committee feel weak, relying on, and I know it when I see it, standard, because the league cannot even define what tanking actually looks like anymore. That makes policing it a nightmare. Silver admitted that this is not a great spot to be in. He even suggested it might be time for a fresh perspective, wondering if the current lottery system is completely outdated. But let's be real, fresh looks have been Silver's go-to play for years. As analysts have pointed out, under his watch, the NBA has tweaked the lottery, added the play-in tournament, launched the cup, tightened the schedule, expanded replays, and changed the all-star format more times than we can count. Every single move was sold as the magic fix, and every single move missed the mark. Before we dig deeper into why, smash that like button if you want the league to fix this mess. In a league where one superstar defines a franchise, losing will always be more valuable than being stuck in the middle. Then you have Mark Cuban, the Mavs owner, flipping the script entirely. Cuban argues the NBA needs to stop fighting the tank and actually embrace it. He called out the recent fines, suggesting that tanking actually sells hope to the fan base by promising a brighter future. He thinks the focus should be on ticket prices and keeping games affordable for real people rather than micromanaging rosters. Cuban's take exposes a harsh reality. The current business model prices out the exact fans Silver claims to protect, while the big betting partners Silver answers to are not buying seats anyway. Silver has even cracked open the door to the nuclear option, abolishing the draft completely in favor of a rookie, free agency market with salary slots. In that world, rookies would just sign with teams based on mutual interest, a wild concept Silver floated without making promises. Just another theory on a growing list of potential cures. But here is the real issue, the credibility crisis. When you combine shameless tanking, massive fines, and gambling pressure, it looks bad. You have a sports league with deep betting ties potentially shaping rules to satisfy sportsbook exposure. And that suggests gambling money is dictating disciplinary policy. That destroys independence. A viral post highlighting these quotes blew up, racking up over 13,000 likes and sparking a firestorm from fans who already don't trust the league's motives. Threads on Reddit and social media are calling the gambling influence a massive existential threat to the sport. Users are pointing out the glaring hypocrisy between Silver's public speeches about integrity and the league's private addiction to betting cash. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as we track this developing story. The numbers back up the fear. A 2025 report showed that 43% of adults now see legalized sports betting as bad for society. And that figure is rising. After a string of scandals involving players and coaches, the foundation of trust is crumbling. When fans start believing the games are rigged for Vegas, every controversial whistle, every weird lineup change, and every upset win looks like a conspiracy. The rise of prediction markets just adds more fuel to the fire. Silver talks about integrity risks and insider info, yet other leagues are running in the opposite direction. The NHL became the first major league to partner with these prediction markets. In 2025, MLS signed an exclusive deal that critics immediately flagged as dangerous. The global picture is messy, especially with massive deals involving DraftKings. Across every major sport, gambling revenue is now the structural spine of the economy. Pulling it out would cause a financial collapse. The leagues are hooked on the cash, and as we know, the addict does not control the substance. The substance controls the addict. What makes the NBA spot so precarious is the perfect storm of tanking, gambling mandates, and a regular season that is rapidly losing its cultural relevance. The product is suffering, and the fans know it. Is the NBA regular season losing its soul? Fans are starting to wonder. Thanks to load management, a bloated playoff bracket, and the play-in tournament, the stakes of individual games feel watered down. Tanking only made it worse. But when the league's sudden war on tanking seemed driven by Vegas odds rather than competitive integrity, the fan frustration hit a boiling point. Now, Adam Silver's defenders will tell you he is just doing what any smart CEO would do, managing a chaotic mix of power players while trying to keep the on-court product exciting. But look at who is sitting at the table. You have the gambling titans, the diehard fans, the billionaire owners, and the athletes. Before we connect the dots, smash that like button and subscribe for more unfiltered sports news. Balancing all those checkbooks requires serious compromise, and Adam Silver didn't just unlock the door to gambling. He kicked it wide open. He forged the alliances, pushed for legalization, and essentially rolled out the red carpet for sportsbooks to set up shop in the arenas and take over the broadcasts. Now, we are watching the fallout of that high-stakes wager play out live. Teams are tanking, betting sponsors are applying pressure, and when the commissioner hands out fines, it looks like he is protecting the spread, not the sport. He stands at the podium preaching about the fans. But those same fans are tuning in and asking themselves a terrifying question. Is the game we love even real anymore? Thanks for watching. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with more fascinating stories like this, go ahead and click one of the videos popping up on your screen right now.